Oh, look at those Africans killing each other. There are some serious games that have been played in Africa for far too long. And once we understand that, we can strategize as to how we can begin to bring the difference and bring the change that Africa needs. And that change can only come if the African diaspora are united. And the Wakanda villages, as I call them, it is our organized way of saying, starting with one African diaspora center of excellence, it will be a new city, a developmental hub, that we can then take from there. Every sector is developed. When the children of Africa were taken out of Africa as slaves, all they ever wanted to do was to come back home to Africa. Each and every one of them that you see, many of them are coming to Africa for the first time. They're bringing with them the spirits of their ancestors.
Diaspora, we have all the specialties. Today in Burkina, we are thinking about set up one university polytechnic, just to train scientific engineers, and I think you will be welcome to learn the second time, because as long as we do not train the youth, so that we ourselves can produce and transform here, on site we will always remain slaves. Sovereignty is all together. We are...
Hello brothers and sisters, I really hope you're all doing fine from wherever you're watching me from. Now, leaders and presidents in Africa now calling for the African American brothers and all those who are in the diaspora to come back home, invest and live in Africa. Now, this is a call that is going around in Africa, and I think all the diaspora should take advantage of this time that we are having a revolution in Africa to come back home. Now, they are calling the black community from the diaspora to come back home. This is a call to make sure that Africa is united and black people are united. So let's watch these videos, then have a very quick discussion at the end of it. Thank you so much.
Take healthcare. How many doctors do we need in this region to take care of this many people? We pick up education, same thing. We pick up engineering. We pick up electricity. How many megawatts of power do we have in the region? How many do we need? Be it solar, be it wind, be it hydro, be it geothermal, be it nuclear.
I want to bring you back to West Africa. President Alassane Ouattara made a declaration that the franc CFA will be replaced with the ECO. But many will argue that because there's still foreign reserves being placed into French economy, it's just the same currency, different name.
Absolutely. I agree with that. The question I had right from the get-go, first, is pegged to the euro. Secondly, it's still going to be printed in France. Third, they may try to say we are eliminating the colonial tax, but they're replacing it with the foreign exchange tax. These countries are very capable of negotiating their own deals. Their funds don't have to go through the French central bank. Even countries wanting to trade with African countries, they don't have to go through French central bank. So there are all those technicalities that are just stupid. What's needed is complete separation. France has got to get out of Africa, really, honestly. Enough is enough. To take $500 billion out of Africa. I mean, it is insanity of the highest order. In countries that are supposedly poor, and making those countries fund French education, French healthcare system, create jobs for French youth while we are struggling in our country. It's no longer sustainable. President Macron needs to wake up and smell the coffee. And the African youth are the ones he's going to have to deal with. The African youth are not taking it anymore. They want what belongs to them. Financial institutions, them too. If I had my way, all the African heads of states should stop paying back any loans that were given by IMF and World Bank. Those loans have been paid gazillion times over.
Many people in the diaspora are wondering, yes, you're no longer the ambassador to the US, but they would like for you to take up the position of the African Union Commission.
I have to say, when the drumbeat was getting louder about me becoming the chairman of the African Union, I disregarded it because it's nothing that I've ever thought about. But increasingly, as we are looking at the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, you have to understand the role of the African Union Commission is to be the implementer of the decisions that are agreed upon by the African heads of states. So it's important that we not get a career diplomat who's now only looking for their next position. We need somebody who can think outside the box. We need a business-minded person because people are dying, my dear young child. we've got to realize that children are dying every day. Women are dying every day. Millions of youth are unemployed, and we're too busy being diplomatic, not hitting the nail in the head. If we don't get an African Union chair who realizes that you're under the table and they're making you fight with your brothers and sisters as to who got the larger chunk of the crumbs under the table, that way you never have to talk about what's on the table. That is a blind chair. We need somebody who gets it. I do know that there's a need for major disruption at the African Union level. If I were to become chair of the African Union, I want to bring disruption.
As we look at the African woman today, when we seek for crucial areas where she can be empowered and enabled, where should we focus? Should we focus in land right for economic freedom, or should we focus on them being in leadership positions for decision-making process?
First of all, in order for the African woman to move forward, it starts with the mind. Women in general, actually, we have a tendency to just apologize, and we just don't think we're quite able to get there. Granted, our challenges are real. Let's make a commitment to say we will succeed. Nobody is superior to us. We will get the job done. Let's find strength within each other, that we are going to take care of ourselves. We're taking care of our neighborhoods, we're taking care of our homes, we're taking care of our Mother Africa. That commitment and that change of mindset, once we have the change of mindset, the game is over. Because you can take me wherever you take me. If my mind is in the right place, there is nothing you can do to me. There are no games you can play with me.
On that very point, what is your view on gender equality, in the African context especially?
In African culture, we, the women, have always ruled. The men might think that they have ruled, but behind the scenes, it was always us. I like to share the story of Nanaya Asantwa. She was the gatekeeper of the golden stool in the Ashanti kingdom. When the British were trying to take the golden stool from the Ashanti people, the men had given in. They were ready to give up the golden stool in exchange for the king who was in exile in Mauritius. But you got to understand that the golden stool is where the spirit of the Ashanti people is housed. So when you give up the golden stool, you have given up the spirit of a people. Our men, our Ashanti men, were ready to give up the spirit of the Ashanti people. Nanaya Asantwa, as the gatekeeper of the golden stool, she said, absolutely not. And let me paraphrase her speech. She said, I shall call upon all my female sisters. We will pick up arms and we will fight the British till the last one of us is down. We then picked up arms, organized, and they fought the British and defended the golden stool. That is the power that the African woman has.
Madam Ambassador, Our Voices is a show that brings the women's voices at the table. What is your message to them today?
My message to the African... Thomas Sankara. President Traore, who has led the struggle to complete the unfinished business that was started by our ancestors and our Pan-African leaders in 1963 when they created the Organization of African Unity. During that meeting, they demanded the creation of an Africa that spoke with one voice, an Africa that was united. That journey is yet to be finished. What is happening in Burkina Faso, in Mali, in Niger, is just the beginning of a revolution that is way past due for Africa. Africa must unite, and Burkina Faso has shown us the way. They have opened the doors. They have shown us that the bully can be defeated. That no more shall we continue to give up our lunch. That we too need to eat. And therefore, there is no negotiating with the bully. The bully had to go, and Burkina Faso showed us how to do it. So, Mr. President, I bring you your children, descendants of the formerly enslaved. They have waited over 400 years to return the spirits of their ancestors back home to Africa.
Fighting for food self-sufficiency, those who can invest in the agri-food industry to transform our products here, you are. Welcome, producing us everything here. Everything grows on our soils, we have experienced everything. After a year or so, everything grows in Burkina. Those who want to invest in agriculture are welcome. Those who want to invest in processing are welcome. Education, we want to. Transform the school, because the formatting that we are currently experiencing, it is from the school. They have channeled us, so that the intellectuals for the most part cannot think. Get out of the furrows that they have a trace. Thank God the conscious ones are waking. Up. We need more. We need to change the educational system. You are welcome. And there are many other paths. They were in plundering our wealth. Today we are regaining control. And we are never going to leave our wealth behind, because we want to live. We want to see our children cared for, educated, grow up in peace and live in a healthy environment. So we are open, and you will be welcome in Africa to develop. Your continent, to unite your continent, and to pass on the message of this unity. It is very important. Continue to pass on the message, so that the young people wake up, who no longer leaves us leaders, to make slaves for others. This should not be allowed. There are certain countries today where we want to send messages, but I think that your voices carry even more, because you are ambassadors. Wherever you are, whether in America, in Europe, you're Caribbean, you are ambassadors. And when you speak, it can wake you up, and I urge you to speak. This is the mission that
Conference, people don't realize it was designed to see to it that the Africans are forever defeated. So for those who turn around and say, but Ambassador, don't talk about the Berlin Conference, it was a long time ago. And I'll say, as long as we have a country called Malawi, a country called Zimbabwe, a country called Central African Republic, all the African countries really for that matter, Berlin Conference is alive and well. Because that which they set out to do 123, 24 years ago, it's still in place. Nothing has changed. So how can they say Berlin Conference is a thing of history, don't talk about it? No, what's really sad and what should disgust the world is to say this policy was put in place 123 years ago and it is still in place and nothing has changed. But what's really worse is when you look at what France did to the Francophone countries in 1958, when they were living, quote unquote, leaving the continent. They gave the Francophone countries two choices. You can be independent with some affiliations to France, or you can be independent with no affiliations to France. Well, Guinea and Mali said, we are done with you, France, goodbye, leave us alone. That's how we had the first ever known union of any African states. They went into those two countries, took everything that they thought they had brought to them. History tells us they even took the last cup, teaspoon, chair, and proceeded to pour concrete into the sewage pipes, completely devastating the two economies, simply because they refused to be affiliated to France. But what they, and also the Sékou Touré, then president of Guinea at that time, he looked at the pact that France was making the Francophone countries sign. It was called the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. He refused to sign it.
How many countries in Africa?
Now we are sitting at 14 Francophone countries that are still held on to this pact.
So in 50-some countries in Africa altogether, were they all colonized?
Yes.
By different
countries?
Different countries.
The majority of the countries went to France,
yes,
Britain. We have Portuguese, we have Spanish, and those are the main ones.
You used the word looting before.
Yes.
The looting continues to this day?
To this day, it continues, but it has a different name.
So tell me what the name is.
Well, the exploitation of Africa continues. Again, let me go back to the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization, which is the biggest one. The Francophone countries were told because we brought you the idea that you can sit at a table and eat with a fork and knife, we brought you tea, we built some roads and told you about going to school, we're going to call that colonial debt. So there's a fee for that, and you need to pay for it. They were also told that you must speak French as your official language, and it must be your language of instruction in schools, and we will be the one to design your educational system. And then also, your money. 85% of your bank reserves, you will keep them, you'll deposit them with the French bank, and we will take that money and invest it in the French stock market, but we don't have to tell you what the returns are on your money. So collectively, all the Francophone countries that signed that pact, their funds, the 85% of their bank reserves, are invested under French name.
Got to hold that because we're getting behind on a little break. We are talking with the ambassador who represents the African Union here in the United States. And Her Excellency is giving us an amazing look inside Africa back then and today. Sit tight. This is America and the World.
This is America and the World is brought to you by Whittle School and Studios, the U.S.-China Education Trust and F.Y. Chang Foundation, guided by Julia Chang Block, President, the League of Arab States, the Republic of Haiti, the Rotendaro Family Trust, Japan, History, Hospitality, and Advanced Technology, Sharing Tomorrow, the Forerunner Foundation, dedicated to forward-thinking public policy, and the Embassy Series, uniting people through musical diplomacy, presenting international artists in diplomatic settings.
Madam Ambassador, about 50 countries, a little bit more, 50 countries?
55.
55. Population of Africa?
1.27 billion.
1.27 billion people. Give me a couple of success stories.
Success stories, we are having increased rates of literacy. We have many African countries that are increasing their GDPs. 6 of the top 10 fastest growing economies in the world are in Africa. So there's a lot of good news coming out of Africa. But again, because of this same strategy of branding Africa as a diseased and dying continent, where people are constantly at war with each other, people are not seeing the good news out of Africa.
So what are the myths? What are the myths about Africa? Just name 3 things that we should get in our minds that when Africa is in the conversation or Africa is in the news, that we should be thinking about. 3 myths.
1, Africa is the richest continent on earth by far.
Hello?
Yes, no continent comes even close. 1. 2, we are all Africans because life began in Africa. Life as we know it, I can tell you, my brother, right now, you do your DNA testing, I can tell you a good 50% of you is African. We are all Africans. And thirdly,
Proud to be.
proud, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then thirdly, I want everybody to know about the wonderful news coming out of Africa. Remember we were talking about the Berlin Conference, how we were designed to fail through these little countries, we were divided up? Well, guess what? Game is over. April this year, we saw our leaders come together and signing the African Continental Free Trade Agreement.
Yes.
Yes, so we have 50 countries that have already signed, and we're going through the process of ratifications. We only need 22 of the 50 to ratify. Already we have 10 ratifications deposited with the African Union.
So free trade agreement in Africa.
In Africa.
For African countries.
We're going to negotiate as one bloc. We have made a commitment as Africans that the only way we can survive which is what our Pan-African fathers wanted, to speak with one voice, one continent, one voice. And we're finally getting there. We're finally beginning to bury the Berlin Conference.
Okay, African Union. What is it? What is it all about?
African Union. Remember when our Pan-African leaders met in 1964 and created OAU? It was during that wonderful Organization of African Unity. That's when Kwame Nkrumah proclaimed Africa was for the Africans and African Union now. 55 years later, we are yet to attain that perfect African Union. But that's okay, we are getting there. He also proclaimed, you were not African because you were born in Africa, but rather you were African because Africa is born in you. Now, this is the most beautiful part. Yes.
Nice.
As I've lived in this country, I've met many people who may never have been born in Africa or never have even set foot in Africa, but they have Africa born in them. So I see a lot of brothers and sisters who may not look like me, but they're definitely Africans. Since 1964, after the creation of the OAU, the whole purpose of the OAU was to rebuild the Africa and destroy the boundaries that were imposed upon us during the Berlin Conference. It's been difficult because remember that seed of divide and conquer, it's deep among us. Trying to get us to work together, we are so divided among tribal lines, religious lines, even now racial lines and national lines. So we are very divided people. But getting us to realize that we are suffering from the legacy of colonialism is work in progress. We must keep preaching. People must have a serious conversation with the image in the mirror because the healing starts here.
How about your job, your mission?
My mission, I have sent here by the 55 African heads of states and my chairman, Musa Faki Mahamat, 2 major mandates: to promote Africa in the Americas and also to strengthen the bridges between Africa and the Americas and to bring the children of the diaspora back home.
There are challenges, of course.
Yes, there are.
Poverty still.
Yes, very much so.
Conflict, literacy, but education moving along. Health, you're a physician.
Serious.
You're a physician.
That is a serious problem. People are not aware. If all the continental African doctors were to return home today, we're only going to meet about 20% of the need. Africa needs at least 1.2 million doctors today. So as you can imagine, no amount of money put into healthcare in sub-Saharan Africa is going to deliver the desired results because the capacity is simply not there. There are more African doctors, Ghanaian African doctors, in New York City alone than in the whole country. The same is true with Nigeria and many other countries. The same is true with education and all other sectors. The capacity that Africa needs to take its rightful place on the world stage is in the diaspora. And this is because of the brain drain. And the brain drain goes back to starting with the ones that came across the Atlantic in shackles, followed by the ones who came across the Atlantic in search of greener pastures. The result is the only ingredient that is missing for Africa to move forward are its children. So that is why the African heads of states and the African Union Commission are committed to see to it that we repatriate, we reverse the brain drain.
This is a heavy-duty sentence that I've picked up in some of your interviews, past interviews. It's not easy being a black person on Earth.
It is not.
Can you talk about that, please?
In my own humble opinion, I like to say the most endangered species on Earth is the black man, followed by the black woman right above them. It doesn't matter, you just have to be. You simply just have to be. I can tell you one experience I had not even long ago. My daughter got married, and it was in Maine. And after the wedding, the wedding party wanted to go to a nightclub. Now, the only black people were my son, my daughter, and another guest, another young black girl. Anyway, and the rest, she married a white guy, so the wedding party was his friends from high school and college. Well, the young kids were already drunk. So when they were trying to get into the nightclub, there were about 15 of them. And the police were called. But my daughter heard them say, and my son is very tall. And so there's a tall black guy and a young lady in a pink dress. They were the only 2 black people. And when the police came, they wanted to talk to those two. But the question is, they're all here. So fortunately, one of the brides maid, she's a newly graduated Harvard lawyer. And she walked right up to the police and say, I want you to know I'm a Harvard lawyer, I have you, I'm recording you, go right ahead. So the police completely changed their demeanor.
Sure.
But what was called in were the two black people.
Sure.
They were not even drunk. It's the rest of the party that was drunk. But so you don't have to do anything. Sometimes you just have to be.
Yeah.
Just be yourself and you're in trouble. But really what gets me mad is, even on the continent, we get abused on our own land simply because of the color of our skin. So it's really something that I would like for people to stop and think about. When are we going to be free as black people?
I want to insert one other thought into the conversation. And what we're talking about now is very important. You've been practicing medicine in Tennessee for 25 years?
Yes.
Yep. I read something which said, talking about African Americans and Africans in the United States, they're saying that it is very difficult and it is a daily task for a black person to fit into white society.
Absolutely. But the question is, here's the way I look at it. Why should we even try to fit into anything? This is our world. I don't need to try to fit into anything. I just want to get along with you.
Yeah.
I don't need to try to fit into anything.
Right.
And if you don't want to get along with me, fine, have it your way.
Right.
We need to, the reason we feel like we should fit in is because we are coming into this conversation from a level of inferiority.
Yeah.
Why do we feel inferior?
And a superiority on the part of the white.
Thank you. So we're coming in feeling inferior, they're coming in feeling superior. There is no conversation between white and black.
Ooh.
That needs to be addressed, and we must pull this bull by the horns. As black people, we need to move up and realize that we're just as good as anybody else, and the white people need to get off their high horses and come down. So we can have a real meaningful conversation, much needed conversation. And that's part of why I am here, because I realize there's so much misunderstanding between Africans do not understand the Americans do not understand the Africans. It gets in the way of trade. If you look at AGOA implementation, that simple legislation that is meant to help African businesses, we're not benefiting from it, because when the African businesses hear about doing business in America, America is so hard. No, honey, it may be a lot of papers, but all you gotta do is cross every T and dot every I, one page at a time, and you'll get it done. But because it's America, there's a wall that falls, and it's difficult.
You're representing the African Union in the United States.
Correct.
On a scale of 0 to 10, what's the relationship between Africa and the United States?
I can honestly tell you right now, and I'm
Hello, brothers and sisters. Now, this is the time that we've all been waiting for. We've been waiting for a time when the African continent will actually and finally speak about the brothers and sisters in the diaspora. We've been waiting for this time all our lives. We've been waiting for the day black people will be united, and the whole of this African continent together with the Caribbean region and together with all diaspora come together and have a one leader and have a one purpose. And when we say that we want a united black people, we want a united black front, we only means that we want all people to come together. We are not talking on behalf of the oppressors or the Western countries. We are talking about those who have been oppressed. Now, you remember in one of his viral speeches, Julius Malema says that we are not fighting white people, but we are fighting for whatever is rightful for us and for whatever was taken away from us for all these years. And when we say that black unity matters, and you can also see this, when black people said and black countries said that we are going to unite ourselves, that's when Donald Trump hit Africa with tariffs. That's when Macron came out and said how much ungrateful African continent is. Now, if we are so much ungrateful, how about them? All they have today can be attributed to this black continent. All they have today can be attributed to black people working for them without payment. Black people were forced into slavery in these countries, and they worked for years and years without compensation. Others lost their lives in the fields. Others went to fight for them in the Second World War when they were killing each other. So there is need for these countries to first respect us. And the only way they are going to respect us is, one, by actually making sure that we are united and we talk as one people. The reason as to why we have all these problems in Africa, we have all these segregations going around. We have now Donald Trump pulling out the Jim Crow laws that made black people suffer the most, is because, one, we black people are so much divided. Even those in the US are divided. Those in the diaspora are divided, and they can't speak one language. Now, I was watching a video where African Americans were actually having a feud with the American blacks, those who were there originally, and we have these other group of blacks who have moved to the US to look for greener pastures and to the western part of the world. Now, there have been actually problems with the two pacts, and it is causing a lot more divisions that the American blacks do not want to stand with black Americans, or the African Americans, and the African Americans are also doing the same. And if we continue in the same way, if we continue dividing ourselves, this is whatever they want. And you can see their media is actually doing a lot to make sure this happens, that we have these problems in Africa, we have these problems in the Caribbean, we have these problems in the diaspora. How many bad news have you heard from Africa? How much have you been told about Africa? How many times have they warned you from coming to Africa? Have you asked yourself, why do they warn you and they still come to Africa? They still invest in Africa. You go to Congo, you go to all of these countries, they are there. They offer travel warnings to you so that you might not reconnect with your motherland. They have told you that Africa is a war-torn zone. They have told you that don't go to such and such a country, because they know they are looting and exploiting mineral resources from those countries, and they're trying to cause chaos and wars and mayhem in those countries so that no one is attracted to go there and see whatever is happening. This is the time our black folks, our black brothers and sisters should come home, should come. The little that you have, you can come and settle in Africa. It doesn't mean that you have to actually invest in Africa. You can come and live a normal life like any other black person in Africa. So, brothers and sisters, when we say that we want a united front of black people, we do not mean that we are going to segregate other people. They are united in their own way. You can see the European Union. You can see all these other that have stood for their countries, that they have a single visa. In the European Union, you only need to have one visa to go around 10 countries. But in Africa, you have to have 54 visas to go in 54 countries in Africa. So there is a problem. There is a very big problem. The same in the Caribbean. You have to have so many visas for you to move from Barbados to Jamaica, from Jamaica to Cuba, and all these other countries. So when we say that they have actually overseen the restrictions being put by our governments, they are actually the one who are bringing these policies to our governments, because most of our governments have puppet leaders. And when we say that we want the children of Africa to come back home, we want them to come back home and try as much as they can, just the way they have made America great. They have made the European countries great. they can also help us in making Africa great. So this is a calling to all of you who are watching this video in the diaspora, that do not listen to whatever the media is telling you. The media has always told dark stories about Africa. Have you never asked yourself, is there no any other good thing that can come from Africa? Why do they show you Africa is a jungle? Why do they show you starving children in the slums? Why do they show you mothers and mothers who have 10 kids and all that? We have the same people who have 10 kids in the US. Even if they talk about the problems in Africa, they're the pioneers of these problems. These problems are there because they have caused them to black people in Africa. So there is need for us to love our continent. There is need for us to love who we are. I see a lot of black people trying to bleach themselves, trying to be white. And you ask yourself a lot more questions like, we are the favored generation. We are the favored race because we people in Africa have the melanin. However much the sun is heating and all that stuff, we can't get burnt. And you can see how black people have been so strong over time that I actually watched a video where white folks were crying out saying that they need to intermarry with the black people because it's so urgent. They are dying from skin cancer and all this other stuff, but black people are surviving. You remember during the corona times, and they were saying that Africa is going to be swept away by the corona disease. But what happened? We stood alive. We are here. Some of us who never wore masks but still live, they were never actually touched by this COVID-19 thing. So this is the land of God, and God is always going to protect his children. So there is need for us to start supporting leaders who have been talking about the coming back of the American brothers and those in the diaspora. We need really to start expanding how we think, and we really need to start thinking of how we can get ourselves from the chains that we are in. We really have a problem in Africa that we should admit. We really have a problem in the diaspora that we should admit. Our brothers and sisters in the diaspora are going through a lot. Racial segregation is real. Maybe we who are in Africa cannot see it, but those in the diaspora go through it on a daily basis from their job places and all this. So we really need to figure out how we are going to do things, and if at all we want things to change. And if we want things to change, then we are the change that we want. We must change for us to see the change. So thank you so much, brothers and sisters. We really need to elevate ourselves and how we do things. I wish you all the best, and we really need to unite. This is the time. Let's support those people talking about unity. If it's your first time on this channel, please consider subscribing, sharing this message, liking and commenting so that I can do more videos like this. Thank you so much.